We begin the show with the House Majority Whip, Kevin McCarthy of California. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Congressman. With Republicans pulling out of the Biden deficit negotiations, what are the probabilities now of some kind of a deal, any deal before August 2, or what are the probabilities of a default?
Look, in every big discussion, when you start seeing that there's friction, it seems like things are coming to a close. The Biden talks were always going to come to an end. Now, they didn't come totally to an end. The point that our leader, Eric Cantor, was making, the Democrats kept wanting to just spend more and have more taxes. You got to get beyond that, you know? It's odd that Washington's the only city in the country where house prices don't drop, they still go up, where Mercedes dealers still get sold, where people still make more than $100,000.
So what's more likely, a deal or default by August 2?
I think at the end you find the common ground, but it has to be a fundamental change. We are never going to happen if the talks are still all going to be Biden. If this president is going to show leadership, it's got to get beyond the Biden talks. It's got to be President Obama showing leadership, engaging.
If he doesn't show enough, move far enough on spending, is it worth it to have a short-term default in order to get more spending reduction?
What's your definition of default? Is it worth to fundamentally correct this problem?
To hit August 2 and not have a deal?
Look, I think we can get to the point where we solve this problem. But if the president stays on the sidelines, I mean, he's got to get off the golf course and he's got to get engaged. He has a responsibility as a leader.
Mitch McConnell says we ought to have a series, perhaps short-term debt ceiling increases over the next year. Could that fly in your caucus?
I don't know how many short terms you can go. I think it's harder. I think it's better to solve the problem long term. And how do you correct borrowing 40 cents out of every dollar if you keep going short-term?
So you don't like the short-term idea?
Correct it once and for all.
Republicans say that they'll go back to the negotiating table if Democrats will agree to take taxes off the table. It's not going to happen. If Democrats did that, would you take Medicare off the table?
Look, when they ask about taxes, we ask, do they want to repeal Obamacare?
Right.
You know, they say they don't want to go there. We say we don't want to go on taxes. Why do you raise taxes in a down economy?
Would you take Medicare off the table?
How do you fundamentally change? I think there's a lot of things we can talk about.
But what you then end up with is you say we're going to cut back on Medicare benefits, but we're not going to tax the richest Americans.
Let's remember what
is that a fair statement?
That's not a fair statement.
Okay.
Because what Republicans are saying, they want to save Medicare. You look at every study that's come out. This is going to go bankrupt.
To save it means cutbacks.
No. Look at our budget. If you're 55 or older, there's no change for you. If you ignore the problem, it's going to go bankrupt.
What you have said was that once people understand your budget, then they will support it. It's been a couple months now. We had a Bloomberg poll this week in which we fairly asked, we said exactly what you did, and Americans said by 57 to 34 they would be worse off under the House Republican Medicare plan. You've lost this argument.
No. The argument has just begun. Okay,
doesn't that 57-34 bother you?
It bothers me that you don't understand the whole problem, because it's going to go bankrupt. If the Democrat plan is to take this place bankrupt, we're saying, no, we don't want to do that. So if ours is not the best idea, put another idea on the table. Okay. Look, if you ignore Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, in a few short years, it'll take every single dollar that government brings in.
So let me ask you this. I understand tax rates. You're adamantly against tax rates going up in any way. But let me ask you about, if you go along with any so-called ending some tax expenditures. The oil industry is making record profits right now. Would you oppose, in order to reduce the deficit, ending the oil depletion allowance for major oil companies?
Look, in America today, we use 19 million barrels a day, and we produce roughly 7. If you want to create a system that says we're going to rely on more money being spent on oil in other countries that create jobs in other countries, I say no.
So
invest in American jobs.
You would oppose ending the oil depletion allowance for major companies?
I would enhance the ability that we invest in American jobs and American energy.
You are so good, but you would oppose ending the oil depletion allowance.
You can raise the question.
Can I say yes to that?
No, you can raise the question any way you want. But the sheer fact that you want to create a system that sends more money out of America and makes us more dependent on other countries, I say no.
David Cameron, British Prime Minister, a real bona fide conservative, austerity program, cutting back on spending big time. But
we would love to cut back on spending.
You know what he says? He says there has to be shared sacrifice, and he has slapped a financial fee on banks as well as a spending cutback. Could you agree to a financial fee on the Goldman Sachs and the J.P. Morgans who were rescued by the government 3 years ago?
Do they not already have a financial fee with the
No, but I'm talking
Dodd-Frank?
about on a transactional fee. Would you agree to what David Cameron did in the UK?
I don't know exactly what David Cameron did, but
It's
I
a
will tell you what
transaction fee.
America should do. This is what a transaction fee. Who owns the stock? Who passes that tax to somebody else? So is that tax on J.P. Morgan, or is that tax on me and the teacher down the street that lives from me, that it takes their hard-earned money and invest in a stock every single month?
It's a bad idea.
If it's going to pass a tax on to the middle-class America, yes, it is a bad idea.
Okay.
Because I believe allow the individual to invest and be able to grow.
Another bad idea, Kevin McCarthy said yesterday, was the president's move to release oil from the strategic reserve.
Yes.
Are you going to bring a bill up in the House to reverse that?
Look, what we're going to bring a bill up in the House, and we've had 4 bills on energy development.
Right.
Let's think what the president did. We took the strategic oil preserves that were created in 1973.
Right.
And what was the reason why it was created? So we had a reserve
Right.
in a time of crisis. We have used it twice. First, when we had the Kuwait go through.
Right.
Second, when we had the hurricane. He used it now. He released 30 million barrels. So how long does that last in America? 36 hours.
Not very long, but
36 hours.
He did it with allies, too.
Okay, well, listen to this.
But
it doesn't
why-
create one job.
Well, then why not bring a bill up and reverse it?
I'm glad you asked that question.
Okay.
Because we have brought 4 bills up in the House. And you know how many jobs that creates?
Right.
354,000. We just had a bill in committee, the Keystone Pipeline, that would create 1.3 million barrels a day. So not only would we add more reserves to America, where you would lower the price longer than 36 hours, we'd create American jobs.
Would it be a waste of time then to try to reverse his decision on
If he continues the process, we can. But I think the best use of
But if
the
he continues
Congress-
the process, you might bring a bill up.
Well, why is he using the reserves
I
now when the
don't-
price
yeah.
was higher? Why wouldn't we actually produce more? Because what happens when you become America independent, you don't send your dollars overseas, and you create American jobs.
Okay, final question for Kevin McCarthy. You have the best feel of any American politician for the mood out there, and I really believe that. I've written that. Let me ask you this. As Republicans seek to hold an add to that House majority in 2012, what's your greatest hope, but what's your greatest concern right now?
Well, my greatest fear of what's transpiring is that we continue down the exact same path in this country of continuing to spend more money.
Right. Put your political cap on for a minute. What dynamic worries you the most, and what dynamic offers you the most hope?
I want a strong as our nominee. I want a leader that sets out a path. I want one that doesn't just talk about cuts, but talks about the shiny city on the hill. We're only going to get out of this problem if we
Will you
grow
endorse
this
anybody
economy.
before the...
I will endorse if someone lays it out. I have not endorsed
You haven't
anybody
seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
Kevin